Get out! We don't fix cars for free," the shop owner yelled, his voice echoing off the grimy concrete walls of the garage. "You're fired." Old Man Benny's only crime had been to help a young soldier who was desperately trying to get back to his unit on time. But what that greedy shop owner didn't know was that the soldier's father was a general who commanded a fleet of 10,000 armored vehicles, and he was about to make the worst business decision of his life. Benny Carter was a fixture at Stan's Automotive, as much a part of the garage as the oil stains on the floor and the smell of gasoline that clung to the air. At 71, his hands were a road map of a life spent with wrenches and engines, scarred, calloused, but possessing a surgeon's steady precision. The younger mechanics, who relied on computer diagnostics and shiny new tools, would often watch in awe as Benny diagnosed a sputtering engine just by the sound it made. They called him the Ghost Wrench, a man who could coax life back into machines that others had declared dead. What they didn't know was that Benny had learned his trade not in a clean classroom, but in the sweltering heat and chaos of Vietnam as a lead mechanic for the 1st Cavalry Division. He had kept helicopters flying with nothing but scrap parts and sheer willpower. He had a code drilled into him decades ago and never forgotten: you don't leave a soldier behind, ever. After the war, and after losing his own small garage to a bad economy, he ended up at Stan's. It wasn't a glorious job, but it was honest work, and it kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. His boss, Stan, was the complete opposite of Benny, a man whose soul was as greasy as his hair. Stan saw customers not as people, but as walking wallets, and he saw soldiers as easy marks. But you won't believe this: that quiet, unspoken code of Benny's was about to be put to the ultimate test. It was late on a Friday afternoon, just before a long weekend. The rain was coming down in sheets, and everyone was in a hurry to close up and go home. That's when the old beat-up pickup truck sputtered into the garage, leaving a trail of dark smoke behind it. The driver's door flew open, and a young man, no older than 19, jumped out. He was soaked to the bone, wearing a fresh military-style haircut and a look of pure panic on his face. "Please," he said, his voice cracking with desperation, "you have to help me. My truck broke down. I have to report to Fort Irwin by Oro 600 tomorrow for deployment." Stan sauntered out from his office, a greasy smirk on his face. He saw the kid's desperation, and his eyes lit up with dollar signs. He walked around the truck, kicked a tire, and let out a low whistle. "Oof, kid. Looks like a cracked transfer case. And the alternator's shot. This is going to be a big job. Special parts, overnight shipping. It's going to cost you probably around $2,000. The young soldier's face went pale. "2,000? I don't have that kind of money. This was my dad's old truck. I was just trying to get to the base." Stan just shrugged. "Tough luck, kid. No money, no fix." Benny, who had been quietly cleaning his tools in the corner, overheard the whole exchange. He saw the soldier's shoulders slump in defeat. He saw the uniform he was wearing under his wet jacket. He saw a brother in arms. He put down his wrench and walked over, wiping his hands on a rag. "Let me take a look," he said, his voice calm and steady. He popped the hood, and within 30 seconds, his experienced eyes saw the real problem: a simple, frayed serpentine belt and a clogged fuel filter. $100 fix, maybe 2 hours of work. He looked at Stan, then back at the young soldier. And he made a choice. "Stan," he said, "I'll stay and fix it tonight." "Off the clock," Stan scoffed. "You're crazy, old man, but fine. Just make sure the kid pays for the parts." Benny nodded and turned to the young soldier, whose name was Private Miller. "Don't you worry, son. We'll get you on the road. Go get some coffee. I'll take care of her." As the hours ticked by, the garage grew quiet and cold. The other mechanics left. Then Stan left, locking the doors behind him and leaving Benny alone under the harsh fluorescent lights. Benny worked through the night, his old bones aching, but his hands moving with the familiar, steady grace of a master craftsman. He didn't just replace the belt and the filter. He tuned the engine, topped off the fluids, and even patched a slow leak in one of the tires. He used parts he had salvaged over the years, parts from his own ghost inventory that he kept for emergencies. For Benny, this wasn't just a repair. It was a mission. He was getting a soldier to his post. Just before 4 a.m., the engine roared to life with a smooth, powerful hum. Private Miller, who had been sleeping in the waiting room, rushed out with tears in his eyes. "How much do I owe you?" he asked, pulling out his wallet. Benny just shook his head and placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Nothing. Just get to your unit safely and serve with honor. That's your payment." The young soldier was speechless. He gave Benny a sharp, respectful salute, got in his truck, and drove off into the pre-dawn darkness. The next morning, Stan stormed into the garage, furious. "Where's the paperwork for that truck, Carter?" "Where's my money?" Benny calmly explained what had happened. "He was a soldier, Stan. He needed to get to his deployment. I took care of it." Stan's face turned a dark shade of purple. And that's when he yelled the words that ended Benny's career at the garage. "Get out. We don't fix cars for free. You're fired." He threw a dirty rag at Benny's chest in front of everyone. Benny didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked Stan in the eye with a quiet pity, then slowly began to pack his old worn-out toolbox, the same one he had carried through a war zone. He hadn't seen the biggest surprise yet. A few days later, Stan was bragging to a customer about how he got rid of some sentimental old fool. Right at that moment, a convoy of 3 black official-looking government vehicles pulled into his parking lot with intimidating precision. Out stepped a man in a crisp dark green U.S. Army dress uniform. On his shoulders were the 3 silver stars of a lieutenant general. He was flanked by 2 aides, and it was at this exact moment that everything changed. The general walked into the garage, his presence immediately silencing the entire space. Stan, thinking he was about to land a massive government contract, rushed forward, his hand outstretched and a fake smile plastered on his face. "General, an honor to have you. What can Stan's Automotive do for the U.S. Army today?" The general ignored his hand. "I'm looking for a mechanic," he said, his voice cold and powerful. "An old-timer. Goes by Benny Carter." Stan's smile faltered. "Benny? Oh, he doesn't work here anymore." "Had to let him go." "Couldn't keep up, you know." The general's eyes narrowed. "No, I don't know." "What I do know is that a few days ago my son, Private Miller, was stranded here, and your business tried to rob him blind. But one of your men, an honorable man, a fellow veteran, stayed up all night and fixed my son's truck, my old truck, for free, so he wouldn't be AWOL for his own deployment." Stan's face went completely white. Your son?" The general took a step closer. "I'm General Miller, head of the Army Materiel Command. I'm in charge of the maintenance contracts for every vehicle in this entire region, 10,000 of them to be exact. I was on my way here to personally offer your garage an exclusive, multi-million-dollar contract based on my son's story about an honest mechanic. But it seems that honest mechanic no longer works here." Stan began to stammer to apologize, but the general held up a hand, silencing him. "You didn't just fire a mechanic, Stan. You fired the very character and integrity the Army looks for in a partner. You failed the test." He then turned to his aide. "Find out where Benny Carter lives. I'm taking my business with him." The general found Benny in his small apartment, cleaning his old tools. He didn't just offer Benny a job. He offered to fund Benny's own garage right next to the base with the full Army contract. Benny's new shop, Carter's Veteran Auto, became a place where young soldiers could get their cars fixed honestly and where other retired veterans could find work and purpose. Stan's Automotive went bankrupt within a year. A single act of integrity, a promise kept to a fellow soldier, had done what no bad review ever could. It delivered perfect, undeniable justice. Kindness and merit are recorded even when they go unnoticed. To continue hearing stories that prove it, don't forget to follow the Merit Ledger and leave a comment about a time when a small act of kindness made a huge difference. Because every life is a record worth reading.